So you've decided it's time to make the house you've just moved into more of a home. And what better way to do that than hanging up paintings, pictures, your new telly against a wall. But before you do that, quickly double check your tenancy pack to make sure the property that you've moved into doesn't have any stipulations in terms of fixtures and fittings into the ceiling, the walls, the floors. Now, the safest way to hang anything on a wall, whether it's a painting with a few nails or some screws, is to use a stud detector. Now, a stud detector is a little device that works by detecting metal within a wall. So if you run it across a wall, it would pick up any of the electrical cabling, copper pipes, anything like that, and would alert you to its presence. Now, as a safety precaution, and in the event of this particular house, with it being a new build, all of the plastic pipes for the water, the radiators, all have a metal tape backing on them, which would alert a stud detector to their presence. If you don't have a stud detector, the next best method that you can follow before you hang anything on a wall is to understand your electrical and your plumbing zones. Now, what I mean by zones is, say for example, you've got this double socket here. The cables that provide the power to this socket can only run vertically or horizontally, but only horizontally if there was another socket next to it. Similarly, with the radiators, you'll often see, whether it's an old build or new build, you can see where the pipework is, and that pipework will often follow vertically or horizontally, especially if there's another radiator in the chain. But in the event of a new build, there's a little box behind the radiator, and then, well, just like you would with the electrical cabling, you want to follow that zone up and down. However, when you've got a radiator that's under a window like this one here, the plastic pipework will lead into the box behind the radiator, will run round to the side of the window and into the ceiling cavity, ready to feed the radiators upstairs. So now that you've identified your zones where all your cabling and pipework is going to be, you need to make a note on whether it's an external or an internal wall. Now, external walls typically can hold more weight because there's either brick or block on the other side of that, and you will have to change your fixings. And for an internal wall, it's often just either a metal or timber stud with plasterboard on either side. So they can't hold as much weight, but they're more suitable for small things like nails to hang smaller things. But also be wary of what's on the other side of that wall once you've mapped out your zones. Because in the event of one of these new builds, there's a downstairs toilet on the other side of this living room. So if I want to enter the wall on one side with a nail or a screw, I need to double check the other side to see where the radiator location is and make sure that that pipework isn't going to run exactly where I need to be. That's just another thing to be mindful of. There will be occasions, often in the living room and kitchen, where you do have a cluster of sockets in one area. We'd recommend avoiding this area entirely because it's just too risky trying to get a screw or a nail in. But you'll also have other walls, like this wall over here. There's only one double socket, and this is an external wall. There's nothing on the other side of this wall that I need to check. So as long as I avoid the area directly above and below this socket, which is where the cables are going to be, then I'm free to hang anything up wherever I'd like. And finally, in terms of hanging anything on the ceiling, we would recommend against this purely because depending on the age of the property, there's no guarantee that things are being put in zones. It all depends on the floor layout, whether it's joists or you've got a concrete floor. So avoid that entirely. However, you can, for example, put a different light fitting in. So using the same area that this pendant is installed in, for example, as long as you switch the power off, these are simply an unscrew. You can put a lampshade on it, re-screw the connection back on, or with the approval from your housing officer, you can put a different light fitting in, but it will be within the same cavity that currently exists now.